Buddha says life is suffering, but what if I told you suffering is a choice? Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Thrive Veda, your home of everything mind, body, spirit, so we can live our most inspirational and empowering lives. And I am very excited for this week's topic, which is on, that's right, my friends, suffering. Something very prevalent in the majority of people that exist on this earth. And I will give exactly 3 reasons as to why we suffer. And then I'll give you 3 solutions to end that suffering now. So stay till the end. So reason number 1, and this is huge for why we suffer, that is because many of us are not on our purpose for a variety of reasons, from not being able to hear our own intuition to being stuck in a survival mind state, thinking that if we give up the job we have now, there will be no other way to survive. And so we accept this life that we lead, not realizing that ultimately we are actually dying slowly on the inside, and not just in a figurative sense, but the lack of purpose, the suffering in itself creates ultimately inflammation in the body, which leads to a whole host of disease. In the East, this is regarded as the idea of karma versus dharma, which I will summarize very briefly here. But imagine that when we are on our purpose, I'll use here once again the pond, the still water analogy. When we're on our purpose, we can see right through to the depths of our own being, and we can connect to our purpose very easily by listening to our intuition and just knowing ourselves ultimately, as we can see into the depths of our own subconscious, the still water. But as soon as we stray from our purpose, it's like throwing rocks, which we could call karma in this case, that send ripples out through space and time and ultimately wind up coming back to us in this life, or in many cases in the next. Another way to look at this is if you bounce the pinball off the left side of the board, it's going to hit the right side eventually, and hopefully it eventually finds its center or its purpose. One could argue that this path isn't just some man-made idea of a purpose, but instead this purpose stems uniquely for each of us from source itself, as if the Big Bang expands and that trajectory can be mapped out to your particular ray of light that you are, being Michael or Samantha or Joey. And so just like every fingerprint is different, every purpose, every frequency of every human being or soul is different. So it's all about you connecting to that depth, your intuition, your subconscious, and learning truly who you are and how you could serve the whole. And if that doesn't end your suffering, it'll get you a whole lot closer. Number 2, we suffer by playing small. And what I mean by this is many of us don't have the confidence in our abilities to play larger. For example, imagine that I bake the most wonderful bread in the world. I throw pecans in there, I throw some cherries in there. I make this delicious bread that's just literally out of this world, which is making me a little hungry right now. But I only make this bread for myself. Whereas option 2 would be for me to start just a little small bakery, just a hole in the wall, but now you're sharing this unique talent with other people. and you're actually getting an exchange for your energy, which in most cases will be currency or basically another form of energy. So now you begin truly sharing your gift with a wider audience until you are making more of an impact on the world, and this can be felt in your deepest center because it aligns with your natural gift and purpose. Number 3, we suffer because we have not taken enough time to deal with the traumas and the ingrained patterning in our own system to be able to finally actually respond to situations in a humane, whole-headed way versus having a reptilian-brained response to whatever stimulus enters our life. As in, let's say I was born in a particularly difficult situation. I had a difficult upbringing, let's say, may or may not be true. And as I began to progress and actually lift myself out of the dumps, I brought with me certain patterns of behavior that are literally stored in the tension or energy in the body. Think about emotions, energy in motion. What happens if that energy is not in motion? Well, it gets stored. And then we actually start to respond or react rather to situations without actually thinking about it. And this, of course, is a survival response. But if we don't take time to A, relax the body, or to go inward, then this could last our whole lives and actually throw us into situations over and over and over again until we learn our lesson. Of course, that is a major source of suffering for many. So now, my friends, 3 ways for us to end suffering, to snuff it, to kick it out, to launch it to space, and to finally find true happiness, true peace, true stillness. Number 1, we must always ask, what can I learn from this situation? Especially when there's suffering or pain involved, that implies automatically that there is a learning lesson. Think about it. If you burn your hand on a stove, you now know that the stove is hot. But how many of us fall into situations over and over and over again in a loop, a spiral, and we never figure out that simply by changing and tweaking one little detail, we might completely avoid this situation in the future. And hence, we must become our own, not a cosmonaut, but a psychonaut. I heard this word recently and I love it, a psychonaut. Essentially, we must be curious about our own psyche. We have to dive into the deepest recesses of our own being and come out with not coal, but gold. It is not win or lose, my friends. It is a win or learn. Engrave that into your mind. We either win or we learn. If there's suffering, there is learning. Just taking note of this will give us space in potentially stimulating situations that in the past would have really made life difficult for us. But now we will be able to take that situation and to mold it into our favor so we can reverse that spiral and move towards our bigger goals to become better, stronger, wiser, and ultimately more loving creators of our own life. Number 2, scarcity is an illusion. And understanding this, reworking and rewiring our mindset to understand that scarcity is an illusion will go miles for us to become more happy beings. And what I mean by this is, for whatever reason, We were told since we were younger, since we were in grade school, this Darwinian idea of only the strongest survives. But that is not the case, and it simply can't be the case. It's like saying only zeros exist in a 0 and 1 binary system, because abundance would have to be just as true, I would argue just a little bit more true, than scarcity for existence to happen at all. There has to be birth for there to be destruction, and actually that goes in a circle, much like the yin-yang Taoist symbol. But as an example, you see a bunch of trees in a forest, and you might look at that as, oh, they're competing for sunlight, and sure, on one level, that is correct. But what else are they doing? Well, they're actually feeding each other nutrients through the fungal system, much like a biological internet that lives as a layer underneath the ground. And hence they are all connected, literally like the interweb, and they all help each other succeed by transferring nutrients from tree to fungus to tree. And basically what I'm getting at here is that it is not that the strong survive, it is actually who can cooperate the best that truly survives. Try pitting one strong man against an army of mediocre people. Chances are we know who would win. Another way to look at this is whatever we put out, we get back in. So for me, for example, in my other job, I make a certain amount of tips a week. And some people will give me more tips, some people will give me almost no tips. But when I go out and I am, let's say at a restaurant, I make sure that I tip, and usually larger than what people would expect, let's just say. And that's partially for them, sure, because I want to make sure that everyone I come across leaves a happier, healthier person. But it's also because not buying into the scarcity mindset allows me to see abundance everywhere and in everything. And hence my reticular activation system, if you will, my ability to hone in on opportunities in an environment becomes ever greater. And I can see these opportunities much quicker. And chances are I can recognize opportunity much easier than someone who's always thinking there is definitely not enough cookies in that cookie jar, and I love cookies. Number 3, and this is major, we must learn to tap into our intuition. And I made a video about this quite recently. I'll link it down below. But simply by being in touch with our intuition, by being able to listen to that inner knowing, a literal guide that seems to know the very next step of every action and choice that you could ever make, when you really learn to tap into it, you'll naturally be guided towards your purpose. And as I said earlier, once we have our purpose, we have something very synonymous with happiness at that point. In fact, intuition in itself is so high vibrational, so high frequency, that it is very difficult to be able to hear your intuition and to be in a constant state of suffering at the same time. You will often find that people that are depressed are lost, and their mind is in a form of chaos. And this can be seen through heart rate variability as well on a literal heart monitor. But when we are in our intuition, we are tapped into frequencies that are close to divine source itself. And hence we receive that guidance from, some might say, our higher self, or others might say our conscience. Eventually, I'll explain exercises on how to tap into this intuition much easier. But right off the bat, I can tell you that through daily meditation, that is one of the most powerful and surefire ways to be able to hear your intuition and to move beyond suffering. In fact, in time, that is exactly what meditation will do. It will take us further and further away from the tumultuous waves around suffering, because we realize that we are beyond thought, we are beyond emotion, that we are an eternal presence stemming from Source itself. So, my friends, the answer to why we suffer and how to find true, lasting happiness stems from the way we access our own hearts, our own intuition, and what we give with that to the whole world. I know it's not easy. Trust me, I pulled myself out of the darkest dumps that I had been in for a vast majority of my life. So I definitely can relate, but I believe in you, and I'm sending you guys my best. If I did it, I know that you can. Thank you guys for checking out my video. If you found this helpful, please press the like button. Share this with anyone you think it might help, because I think someone out there could definitely use it. And I'm sending all of you out there all the love in the whole universe. Have a wonderful day, an amazing week, and until the next one, my friends, much love.